Hello, everybody. I hope all is well with you on this wonderful, wonderful Saturday. This is Aaron Wells, Executive Director of North Philly Project, along with Terrence Johnson, our Director and um, the guy that runs our youth programs and initiatives. We are here live with our monthly North Philly Project Presents Wellness and You. It's conversations that focus on viable solutions to significant health and wellness disparities in North Philadelphia. North Philly Project is committed to bringing and adding to building wellness in our North Philadelphia communities. We focus on building a platform of wellness according to SAMHSA's 8 dimensions of wellness, looking at the dimensions of emotional, intellectual, occupational, social, spiritual, financial, physical, and environmental wellness. How can we as a people uh, continue to create and build wellness in our community? The reality of it is in our communities, North Philadelphia, some of the lowest demographic numbers and disparities are the realities of our community. And so, what we want to, as North Philly Project, as an entity, is connect and collaborate with other entities that see wellness as a priority and to be able to give viable solutions to the families and the residents of North Philadelphia. And so, we want to just thank you for hanging out with us today. Along with my guy Terrence is Gail Day. Gail is the Director of Wellness Initiatives for North Philly Project. She'll be on shortly, just hanging out, working out some technical difficulties. And we have a special guest on that's coming in, um, tuned in today, and that's my sister Tanya Wells, North Philly, lifelong North Philly resident, and just joining us today, participating in conversation about wellness. How you doing, Tanya?
I'm amazing, thank you.
All right, that's what I'm talking about, my amazing sister. So we're gonna have great conversation, Terrence, and
Yes.
please know that as you come on, that this streams live on North Philly Project's Facebook page. As you get this into your platform, um, please share it. Share the information. It also streams out live to our North Philly Project YouTube channel. Yep, we have one, and I'm striving for 10,000 subscribers. And so as we um, do this, as we're moving this agenda forward with conversation, we are really asking you to participate by sharing the conversations. Right? People don't know what they don't know, and so we want people to know. Terrence, how you doing today, brother?
All is well. Get excited about the conversation.
All right, all
All
right.
is well.
Terrence, the conversation deals with a lot of things that you deal with the population that you serve. Do me a favor, Terrence. Just talk to us a little bit about that population that you serve and some of the things you do from a professional perspective.
Well, I serve the youth of Philadelphia, 18 to 24-year olds on a day to day basis, supporting them with uh, everything that they need in terms of the life skills, the basic life skills to enter into the workforce. There's a lot of things that our young people it gets passed by within the school systems and just within their day-to-day environments, their homes. A lot of the things that they need, the fundamental things that they need to be professionals in whatever arena they want to go in, and also support them, helping them realize what they want to do. So I work on all of the basic life skills such as goal setting, time management, um, you know, all those fundamental soft skills that they need to figure out what they want to do, where they want to go, whether it be school, whether it be directly into the workforce, whatever the case may be. So I see the gamut. I get them. Some come to me from how coming straight from how being on house arrest. Work with them. Some are homeless. I get the wide variety of students that come through. You know, my program that I work with on a day to day.
and the
Well,
work that
I see all of the wellness issues, not just the physical, but there's a mental aspect to wellness as well, that is front and center in society today that we have to deal with.
Thank you, brother. Your work that you do, and you mentioned that you see it all, right? You see every category, all the demographics. You get to see it firsthand and see how it plays out in the lives of the citizens of Philadelphia. Real quick, Gail, are you on yet? We still don't have a Gail sighting,
Hmm.
but when she comes in, we'll get her in there. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. According to the Economy League, economyleague.com, and in conjunction with information from the Pew Charitable Trust Foundation and the State of the Community assessment that is done by Children's Hospital of Philadelphia every year, we know that there's inequality as far as color in healthcare. There are health disparities in the communities of color. Some of those health disparities have played themselves out in the fact that our life expectancy, as far as a people, and I'm talking about people of color, our expectancy are lower than those of other communities of whites. Our life expectancy is lower. Our what we do with what we have is tough because there's not a lot to hold on to. There's not a lot available as far as there are reasons for health disparity. There are opportunities to be able to access the quality health care that we need is less than other people in communities. Statistics tell us that the average crude prevalence of chronic disease for African Americans is substantially higher for 18 and older than other communities. Even with COVID, the average COVID vulnerability score, blacks were higher, Hispanics, Latinos was higher, and so we see all the numbers point to the fact that people with poverty issues, people who are living in poverty, people who are living below poverty lines, which is majority Black and brown people,
So
deal with the issues of the and are victims of, and we don't like to use the word victim often, but there's a reality that health disparities are burdened upon and pressed upon people who are living in poverty. And many of us, as we look at, and you and I talked about this, Terrence, the numbers tell us that it's true, but many of us don't operate as if poverty is the issue, but the results show that they are.
the result.
What we want to be able to just chat about and have conversation about the solutions. What do we do? What do we do with these health disparities in community? How can we, as citizens, how can we, as a community, rise above and create something different? So Terrence, give me some thoughts about what we're talking about, and then let's dig in.
Yeah, I think and I kind of gotten this from Miss Gail, who directs our wellness. Is our role is to educate, in educate in those things that sometimes we are even within our own selves, within our own communities, don't see. Being that because we are at a certain income level, doesn't mean we have to, quote unquote, live that way in terms of regarding our health. There are options out there. There are ways. There are things that we just are not privy to. So a lot of what Ms. Gail attempts to do with this initiative is to educate, let them know, just one simple thing that even helped me was how to go into the grocery store and shop. There is a way it's actually laid out in the grocery store that we just generally don't pay attention to, that the health, the healthy stuff or the fresh stuff or the natural stuff are on the outside. And we're supposed to shop the perimeter of the store. That's where your fruit and vegetables, all these types of things are generally surrounding everything else, and then your canned and preserved and all of those things are toward the center, and so it's just simple things. So I think education is first, is what our role is to have platforms like this to get the word out that you don't have to continue doing it the same way.
Absolutely.
So forth and so on. So I think, we can continue to just plant the seeds, get the word out and educate, give people options on the things that they actually bring into their homes to eat and cook and things of that nature. I think that's our first role what we need to do.
Thank you. I want to just say hi to our folks who just came in. There's Gail. Gail, how are you? Can't hear you, Gail.
So
But anyway, Gail is on. Hey, Gail. Vicky, how are you?
I'm fine. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you. This is
Okay.
Vicky Williams. She's the owner of VLW Counseling Partnership. She's our resident clinician that comes on and just helps us navigate health and wellness issues for community. Gail, our director of wellness initiatives. We're having a couple of sound issues with Gail, but she's on. She's on. We've created and started the conversation in your stead, Gail, just about wellness and community, disparities in community. Terrence has taken us into conversation, so we just want to continue that. We also have a special guest, Vicky. Her name is Tanya Wells. She is on with us today. And Tanya, just as a resident, not just as, but as a resident of North Philly, is going to talk about some of the things that she's doing to just bring change of health and wellness to her life. So we'll be talking to Tanya in just a few minutes.
Can you hear me?
Gail, say what?
Oh,
Gail.
I know.
Oh man, we can have a party now, y'all. we can have a party now. Wow. I don't even know what to do with this. Go ahead, Gail, with your bad self. Say it loud. You make me proud. All right. So let's dig in. Gail, I've been playing Gail, but now you can play Gail. And we were talking about just those concerns. I just started out with the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia, their paper about leading indicators. Talked about disparity of health, specifically in Black and Brown communities. And then we looked at the Pew Charitable Trust, their state of the city, given the same information. The numbers are basically mirror the same, that our rate of death is higher, and not just through violence. We talked about the chronic diseases, those that are can be preventable and treatable. Talked about just the general health connected to the poverty issues of North Philadelphia, talked about the disparities. And so we just began on that platform, but then we jumped right into some of the things that we can do as community to overcome those obvious disparities. So we're all caught up. That's where we are. So Gail, Vicky, you want to chime in? And then I want to hear Tanya after you ladies chime in, because as a resident of North Philly, we had a great conversation yesterday, Gail, and it had everything to do with the conversation you and I had the day before about numbers and what can be done, and energy and effort toward making change. So Gail, I'm turning it over to you, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Glad I can be heard now. I guess I just wanted to really have an honest and open conversation about, we already know where we are. How do we move forward? How do we get past this point where we are? and just trying to understanding some of the barriers and see if we can help people to get over those barriers. And there's a lot of barriers, but we need to figure ways to help people to lower the rates of death, diabetes, obesity, hypertension. We need to be healthier. So how do we get there? And so if we look at a lot of the statistics all over the place, everybody's doing a study about the Black community. Nobody's doing anything to help it, but they're just doing studies. So the studies are out there, the research is out there, the numbers are out there. So now that we know all this, what do we do to change our behaviors to accommodate our health? And that's what this is about. It's really about looking at what can I do as an individual, because health for you is for you. I can't do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. So you have to come to an understanding of what you need to do for you. And we're here to help you to kind of get over some of the hurdles that you may be struggling with, be it cost, be it food insecurities, be it desire, the want, the understanding of why. So we're here to just sort of answer questions, look at solutions, and seeing how we can maybe make a small change. And small changes add up. If you make a little change each day, it really, really adds up. I can give numbers all day long. I can tell you about the benefits of this, the benefits of that. But until you actually decide for yourself that you want to make a change, we're all just talking. So what we want to do is find out why the information is all out there and why people don't necessarily make a change. Why don't you take that next small step? And nobody's saying you have to, decide that all of a sudden now you're going to sign up for personal training, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to run, because I see people that make those rash decisions. They decide they're going to come to the gym or they're just going to run the track. Well, you can't just start off from sitting to now running. It's not going to work well. Your body's going, that's not going to happen. And it makes you pay for rushing into things. So we're trying not to rush into anything. We're trying to slow walk it, because the slower you walk into a change, and I'm going to let Vicki talk about change, but the slower you walk into a change, the more likely you are to stick with that change. People go on these rash diets. They never work because your mind hasn't really decided that that's what you want to do. It's just a momentary thing. You go, okay, I'm going to do keto, and I don't care what diet it is that you decide to do. If you rush into it and all of a sudden you're going to just totally change your lifestyle, it's not going to work. We just don't mentally have the capacity to make changes that drastically. You have to just sit down and decide, what can I do today that's better? Today. So if today what I can do that's better is I put down the soda and I drink an extra glass of water. That's a start. If today it's a beautiful day outside, I decide, you know what, let me just go to the park and just walk. I'm not going to do anything else but just walk. When I get tired of walking, I'm going to get back in the car and drive home. That's a start. You have to decide to start. But I do want Vicki to kind of talk about what goes on in you mentally when you decide you want to change and what some of the barriers are that stop you from making that change.
As Vicki comes on, I just want to say hi to Vicki Carell. Vicki is on, our other Vicki, and good to see you, Vicki. So from a hello to one Vicki, a hello to the other Vicki. What's going on, Vicki Williams?
Oops.
We can't hear you, Vic.
Oh, I think that's better.
Yes.
Yeah, I should unmute myself. That'll help. Right. So I think we always talk about education, which is critical. We still need to hit hard the area of education because we have so many bad habits that we've learned and that we continue to pass down generation to generation. So that still has to be a very solid component of how we help our community change and be healthier. The other part of it is that we all know that we're not living up to the knowledge that we do have. Mm. And so, Gail, I hear you saying, well, I almost hear you saying, these not your words, but like if you know better, why aren't you doing better? There's certain things we know would improve our health, and we just don't work up to it. And from my standpoint as a clinician, we're looking at two things. We're looking at self-regulation, and we're also looking at learned habits. So self-regulation is in the area of like willpower. You'll find some people, for whatever reason, they could get a medical condition or medical diagnosis. They could have a small child in the home, and all of a sudden, the smoking habit that they have, they can stop cold turkey. Other people, not so much. What's the difference between those two individuals? Well, one person has a strongest will and self-regulation around behavior as it relates to smoking than the other person who has the habit of smoking. And so then if I'm helping that person, then I have to think about the psychology of their habit. When did that habit start? Why is it stuck? Why the self-regulation cannot kick in? So we can talk about self-regulation. We can talk about all the things they need to do to get where they need to go. But habits are those things that we do unconsciously. So self-regulation is those things we choose to do. I am going to do this when I get up tomorrow. Habit just happens without any energy, any thought at all. And so we have to slow down, look at those habits and rewire our brain. So the habit is the way we've wired our brain to respond to a particular cue. So we're hungry. Our brain is wired to be attracted to certain types of foods to feel satisfied.
Amen.
So the brain is wired. There's no thought gone in that at all. That's what the habit is. So then we'll have to then break that habit down into the stimulus, hunger, the behavior, eating, fast food, reward, feel full and entertain. Like we like to entertain our palate. So examining that habit, we have to change what happens in the middle, the way we meet that need. And then we'll have to have that's individualized. So if we want to feel satisfied and entertained, what does that look like? How do we change that middle so that they can get to satisfied and entertained?
So can habits change?
I'm sorry.
Can habits change?
Yes.
This is the formula for the habit changing, right?
Okay.
So because the brain is so automatically responding that we would have to look at that habit. What do you normally do when you're hungry? What do you typically do when you're hungry? Well, I go to the corner store because by the time I'm hungry, I don't feel like cooking. So we have to look down. Here's all the things that we do. Why do you do that? It's fast. It's cheap. So that's the reward. So we have to talk about, okay, the cue is hunger. The reward is cheap, fast, tastes good to my palate. So now what behaviors are we going to change that's in the middle that get you all of those things at the end? And we have to break it down. And then we have to then implement it. So let's take someone like myself who's in the middle of self-confrontation around food because I have tons of information and that I don't live up to and I do things by habit. I'm on vacation now. That's when your habits really kick in, right? And so I love fried chicken. I like the healthy, the unhealthy kind, deep fried, battered, seasoned. I like it fast food. So the cue, I'm hungry. I actually have a craving for fried chicken. My behavior in the middle is like, okay, we know fast food is accessible. I have my favorites. I'm looking for my favorites, find my favorites. And now I'm full, I'm entertained. So now what am I going to do if I'm going to change that behavior? That's deadly. I need to change that behavior. So now I have to think about what am I going to do? I'm on vacation. Can't do a lot of preparation. What else am I going to choose to do in advance when I get hungry? And that's going to get me, my palate's going to be entertained. I'm going to be full. And I have to do that. Once I make the decision what those behaviors are going to be, I have to do them over and over again. There's a formula for this. The formula says if I do that substitute behavior for 66 days, I would have developed a new habit. Now, what we know from studies is that the way my brain was wired for the fried chicken is still there. So that's why it can always be a default. I can always fall back to that. But if I do it straight for 66 days, I would have developed a habit, and I just have to feed that habit more than the fried chicken habit. And the more I sustain, 66 turns to 67, turns to 100, turns to 600 days, then that habit becomes stronger. The old habit stays in our brain, but the new habit gets stronger. So this is not just, of course, we know this can be applied across the board. Whenever we find ourselves struggling around something we know, something that we really do want, we have the information, but we can't get the behavior consistent with our goals. We have to just slow it down and look at the cue, the reward, what we're doing wrong in the middle, plan in advance, strategize in advance what we're going to do instead, and then just do it 66 days in a row.
Wow.
With as many supports as possible. And those strategies have to be consistent with who that person is. So I'm a person, I work out early in the morning. If I don't work out by the end of work, it's not going to happen for me. I have to be realistic about that. So even though I may have a group of friends who work out every other day at 5 o'clock, I'm not going to be there. I'm just not. So I have to, whatever plan I have, it has to be one that works out for me. So a lot of times we will, in my helping profession, sometimes we want to tell people what the strategy should be. For me, I have to slow it down and say, what are your habits? What are you doing? What food do you have in your house? What food do you have access to?
Mm-hmm.
When do you eat? When are you hungry the most? What meals are you skipping? Like really customize so that it becomes something that my clients can do. And so just because somebody else ran 3 miles a day, I could run 3 miles a day every day at 4:30 in the morning. I can actually do that. But if I'm going to specialize, customize the way I support someone else, I'm not going to say do that. I might have lost weight and had success, and I have. But that's not going to work for everyone. Running is not going to work for anyone. In the morning is not going to work for everyone. So once we figure out what works for that individual, then we're going to try to get them to 66 days, then 67, 68.
Yeah.
And it's just that methodical, but we have to show respect as helpers for the psychology of habit and not talk to people about what they should do, because most people know what they should do. It's
Vicki,
how to help them do it.
Vicki, I want to jump in for just a moment, please. And the reason is what you have, well, two things. One, I want to say hello to April Moore, who's joined us. But Vicki, everything that you just said resonates with a conversation that Tanya and I had the other day, which resulted from a conversation that Gail and I had. Tanya, if you would come on, because what Vicki is saying sounds like exactly the process you told me that you've gone through for your change.
Right. So recently I did a process called the 40-day turn up. And in 40 days, Dr. Joe Williams, he taught me how to look at food differently and figure out my triggers. And I had to figure out my why. So in figuring out my why, it's much easier for me to create new habits. This is the first time ever that I actively tried to lose weight. Before, like I did the Daniel fast for spiritual reasons, but part of the doing the fast, I lost weight. Oh, okay, that's fine. But right after that, I went back to eating cupcakes 2 and 3 at a time. But now that I know my why, and I don't want to keep being this way. This is not what I want for me, my life. I just don't want to do this. So I've started making changes. And after doing the Daniel fast, I like the healthy stuff, the vegetarian, the vegan things. So I kind of incorporated them into my everyday stuff along with my cakes and pies. And I definitely used to be a person who was like, oh, you eat fruit? Not unless it's wrapped around a pie. I only ate fruit in August because that's the only time I liked it. But now I'm eating apples all year long, all types of fruit, way more vegetables. I even bought a bike. I'm riding my bike because I know my why. And although people go to the gym or do, you have to know your why. And once you know that, I think everything else becomes a little easier. I think everything else becomes easier. And you also have to change the way in which you think about food. I don't know what's beeping. I'm sorry, guys. You have to. I changed the way in which I think about food when I go to the store. Like TJ said, I do shop the perimeter, but if I'm in the aisles, I'm picking up certain things. I'm not. I avoid certain aisles altogether because I know that stuff is not for me. So you really, it's definitely a conscious effort, and you have to work at it every day. And I'm also a person who, people say, "Oh, you're on a diet, you can't eat that." I don't look at it as a diet. I look at it as a life change. And I can have, like Vicky said, she's a chicken person. I can have chicken today, but I'm not going to eat chicken all day. I'm not going to, I'm not a person who can have a whole day of eating all types of stuff. I'm a person where I can do a meal and go back to what I'm doing. Because if I eat like that all day long, I lose track. But I think the main point and the main thing in being successful at it is you have to know your why you're making these changes and why you want to make the changes. And once you know that, I think everything else will start to fall into place.
Well, I want to give you a round of applause.
Yes.
Thank you.
Definitely. Congratulations on that. And I'm motivated by what you just shared. So thank you for that.
When I was talking with, talking with Gail on Tuesday, and then speaking with on whatever day, and then talking with Tanya the next day, it was as if there was a connecting conversation, because everything that Gail and I talked about and spoke about that could lend itself to solutions for some of our health disparities. And talking to Tanya, she was just putting it all together, and then hearing what Vicky is telling us and explaining to us what process can look like. Tanya, you're doing that, and so not only do we applaud you, it just feels good. So Tanya, I want to ask you, with the physical change, how do you feel emotionally? How does this add to your peace? Peace is a big thing with us, and with me, I'm a firm believer of those things that give us peace are things of health, of true peace. And so, Tanya, how do you feel emotionally, and how is this change for you from a mental aspect?
So the day I talked to you about when I was telling you my thing, I share it. I hadn't weighed myself in probably a few weeks, and then when I did, I was like 11 pounds down. So I was just emotional about that, and I'm finding I'm becoming happier. Like it's the small victories, the I don't know how to describe it, but the word I'm looking for, but it's I got scaleless victories where I feel my clothes feel different, and that gives me a different confidence. I don't feel uncomfortable like I used to feel. And I'm happier about things, and how I feel and how I look, so it in turn shows in other ways.
Tanya, one last question for you. And again, we definitely applaud you. My heart is really, really happy for you. How do you feel as though it is your responsibility, right? I want to shape it that way. How do you share this with the people in your circle? One of the things that I have found is that if this is how this is my lifestyle, generally the people in my circle have the same lifestyle similarities. How do you share this epiphany of health, these activities of change, this energy, even the inner peace? How do you share this with those closest to you, the people that's in your circle? Because I tell you, you inspire me. So how do you share this?
So the things I learned along the way, when I talk to my friends, I share them, in our conversation. So, for example, the other day, Dr. Joe, he talked about your trophy. Like your weight loss is your trophy. Like you as an athlete, you're an athlete, you get trophies. You never just give them back. Like, oh yeah, I don't want this anymore. You earned a degree. You're not saying, oh yeah, I don't want that. So my weight loss is kind of like my trophy, and why would I get that back? I don't, So when I talk to my friends, I talk to them about that stuff like that. And so my sister, she's diabetic, and some of the things I learned, I tell her, increase your vegetable, let your increase your vegetable intake, decrease your starch, l- decrease a little bit of your protein, and increase your vegetables. So she's been doing that. Some of my friends, they're not triers of new things. So when I'm at work and I cook stuff, hey, try this. Oh, I like that. So now that's something that she'll eat, and I made it healthy. So going forward, when I'm making that, she's eating it. And it's just small changes and talking to them, and that's how I incorporate it and share things with them.
Thank you, Tanya. Vicky, what do you grab out of this? You're hearing some good stuff, and it pretty much lines up to what you were saying about creating new habits.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's interesting when you're asking Tanya how it impacts her to have that success. And we know that it connects to all areas of the dimensions of wellness. That if when we're successful in one area, if it's not just the confidence and self-esteem, but just the benefits. So we're talking about Tanya started saying she started looking at what she was eating, and now she's biking, right? So it's like it does have a positive domino effect. And when we experience success in one dimension, it will move in a positive way other dimensions.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
I'm loving this.
A big
Gail?
part that I got out,
With
I
TJ.
wanted to chime in is just to say it really starts with honesty with self, honesty to self.
Absolutely.
You just gotta own who you are, where you are, and like Vicky said, the stimulus. You gotta really be open and honest as your starting point, and I think that is what Miss Gail put out there when she came on, the barriers. That is one. We are just not open and honest with ourselves on where we are and what we're doing, that we do have bad habits per se. This is just who I am. We kind of we cloak it in different sayings that in our communities, and I think we have to figure out how to get our people to be open and honest about who they are, where they are in their space.
How do we do that, Gail? How do we do that? How do we begin, or Vicky, how do we begin to help community look in that health mirror to be able to see what's really there and then begin to make change? It's a big task. How do we begin?
It is a big task. I think what has happened is messaging has changed. What you see has changed, and we are so tied into the visual messages that are sent to us, because it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's constant message sending to us, and we buy into those messages. And now what has happened is they're starting to shift into that it doesn't make a difference what size you are, you're okay. There's a difference between, for me, self-acceptance of oneself and the reality of the numbers. There's a difference. And we have to be clear about the difference. Yes, we need to be good in who we are at that moment. Absolutely. But when we look at the numbers, we realize that it doesn't necessarily match up together for health. It has nothing to do with personal style or how I feel about how I look. It has nothing to do with that. When Tanya was talking about the why she changed, we all have different whys, and she's absolutely correct. My why was we have a history of hypertension in our family, high blood pressure. My father had high blood pressure, which actually the medication destroyed his kidneys. So as we went through that process with him and dialysis, we decided can't make that happen. That's not a good thing. So for me, the why is I don't want to be on medication. It's a clear why. I don't want to be on medication. So for me, it's whatever I need to do to stay off medication. I don't run because, the orthopedic surgeon told me, don't run unless somebody's chasing you. Some people like to run. I just felt like I don't like it. And you have to find something that you like. I know I need to do something. And I, like everybody else, grew up on fried chicken, potato salad. My grandmother made homemade biscuits. We had fried chicken every week. And I'm not sitting here saying that fried chicken isn't just freaking amazing, because it is. And homemade biscuits are the best. She made potato salad, you name it. My mother used to fry fish for breakfast with grits. What's any better breakfast than that? So the way the way we grew up was like typical. It was very typical. What I didn't realize growing up was that my mother was really good about portions. Had no idea. She would put a portion size on our plates. We didn't know. We just ate what was on the plate because you had to eat what was on the plate. But she never gave us. She gave us portions. You could always come back. But you're a kid. You eat what's on your plate. You want to get outside. That's it. You want to play. So we would eat and go. So she never really filled our plates. So visually, we always saw just portion sizes. And I think visually, sometimes people sometimes get that buffet mentality. The more, the better. And when you start or you tell your kids you have to finish everything that's on your plate, that whole tradition of finishing what's on your plate and not wasting tends to make people just figure like, I have to finish it, even though I'm full. Whereas if you start to train yourself, and I know I'm going in circles, but if you start to train yourself that when my body tells me I'm full, and your body will tell you if you listen, but you have to slow down to eating, because if you eat really quickly, the body doesn't have time to catch up. But your brain will tell you that you've had enough. We eat past the message. We just keep ignoring the message. And after a while, the body says, I give up. So there are a lot of triggers in our lives that are naturally, like Vicki says, habits. There are natural habits that the body will tell you when you've had enough, if you just tune into that. But if you don't, you don't. But the why is important. So I'm going to step back a second. So my why is I choose not to be on medication, and I choose to do whatever I have to do not to be on medication. Now, there is room for medication. There's a reason for medication. And I am not sitting here saying that people shouldn't be on medication if they need it. That's ridiculous. Some people can do everything right and still have to be on medication. But if you try not to, it's a why. And the other why is there is actually, people talk about the runner's high. I don't know if anybody's heard of the runner's high. There is actually a chemical thing that happens in your brain when you exercise. Your endorphins start to, you can get endorphins from a lot of things, but your endorphins the chemical reaction starts to make you feel better. So when you exercise, you actually feel better. And it's a chemical reaction. So a lot of times people exercise, they feel better. You feel better when you leave. You just feel better. And so some people do that because of the feel better. So the endorphins is an actual thing that will help you to feel better. I'm quite sure when when Tanya rides your bike, after she's finished, not only does she feel accomplished, but she feels better because those are the endorphins that kind of build up. So you're chasing those endorphins when you work out because you know that when you finish, you're going to actually feel better. So I think it's really about getting people to understand that it is small changes. 66 days is, thank you so much, Vicki. It does take time to make a new habit, but you can actually create a new habit in your life. You can actually change habits. It takes time. Like I said, 66 days sounds like a long time, but if you just chip away at it through the 66 days, if you just chip away at it a little bit each day, just a little bit, by that 66th day, you'll be shocked where you are. If you just Small bites. Like you said, Aunt, just small bites. How do you eat an elephant, Aaron?
One bite at a time.
There you go. We have to take small bites of this, but we also have to, while we're taking these small bites, we have to actually look back. We have to look at our children. We have to look at our family history. And we have to look at the fact that there's so many things coming down the family history. There's so many things in your gene pool that you can't avoid. It's just coming down line. It's genetics. So how do we fight that? We have to fight it by making some changes so that it doesn't continue. I have high blood pressure in our family. It's my mother has it, my father had it, and we have seen the consequences of that condition. My father was not overweight. My mother was not overweight. So they did things right. Yes, we ate traditional foods, but they weren't overweight. My mother worked out all the time. Still that gene pool, and you have to really fight against what's in your gene pool. You have to fight it, because if you don't, it will eventually trickle down to you. So it's really about, like you said, acknowledging what it is. I mean, being honest about what it is, just saying it is what it is. This is not body shaming. It is what it is. You are where you are. And if you look at where you are and look at the chances of you, based on where you are, having diabetes, hypertension, this, that, and the other, is that the road you really want to be on? If not, then how do we shift it? And how do we combat some of the things that are stopping you from the shift? And I think that's my biggest thing is people do know, people do see, people do understand, but they're not quite sure. There's so many messages out there, how to do this, keto diet, this diet, Mediterranean. There's so much information that's just flowing in. People are just going, it's just too much. I'm just going to keep eating the way I want to eat, as opposed to saying, what can I do personally to just make a small change, just a small change, and just make it so a change that you can feel comfortable with. Because if you just go on a strict diet, I've done the Daniel fast. It's tough. I mean, you start going from eating food to eating vegan. That's a huge change. And we did it for 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was a long time. That was actually long. But we did it and felt better afterwards, but knew that I could not keep that going. I could not eat that way forever, for a lifetime. I just couldn't. So I had to bring some things back in. I had to bring in some fish. Don't do beef, basically, do chicken, fish, and vegetarian, but I can't do a vegan diet. I know that. I don't want to, and I don't have to. So I think people feel as though you don't have to be on a keto diet. You don't have to do this diet. What you can do is create your own meal plans that help satisfy you. Because Vicki talked about, you have to be satisfied. If you eat and you're not satisfied, you're going to keep eating. If you're not feeling content, and you're going to keep eating. You're just going to do it. You're going to pick this, you're going to pick that, and you're going to go for what's in your house. And I know Terrence had mentioned about shopping on the outside the market, but what you bring in your house, you will eat. People say, well, I'm just going to eat it in moderation. No, you're not. No, you're not. If that bag of chips is in your pantry, you're going to eat the bag of chips. Everybody will. You're going to say, I'll just eat 2 for the moment. You go back and eat 2 more. Before you know it, the bag is empty. And so why torture yourself? You know, I feel like, well, don't torture yourself. If it's not in the house, you won't eat it. Odds are at 11 o'clock at night, you're not going to get up out of the bed and go get some chips. You're just going to go, don't have a taste for it. But so you have to be kind to yourself. Stop torturing yourself with trying to eat foods that you don't like, foods that don't taste good. You can't maintain it. You have to modify what you're eating. Do I like fried chicken? Who doesn't? Do I eat fried chicken? I weigh it. I weigh the cost versus the benefits. For me, cost versus benefit. How long is it going to take me to work off this piece of chicken? How long?
I'm going to stop letting you make me feel so bad about eating fried chicken since you had that self-disclosure.
It's my Frankenstein.
Just a moment. I just wanted to say, I think Terrence wanted to chime in for a second, but there's a note here. Tina says, yes, a good challenge to bring discipline to the body or change the habits that does not benefit oneself. Self-check and bring discipline to your change. And then our other Vicki my buddy says the conversation is great, but if you're in a deprived area, it's much harder to find quality foods, especially if you have time constraints. Healthy food is expensive in itself, but now it's even more expensive. Any thoughts on how to be healthy without killing your budget with one meal? That is a
Yes.
very good question. That's a viable question. It affects a lot of people. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I know, Terrence, you wanted to say something. I wanted to get the comment from Tina and Vicky. Vicky asked the question, with the expenses of all things going up, how do we eat healthy? How do we make that happen without killing your budget on one meal is the question. So wanted to put that out there to everybody.
You know, I always tell people beans are cheap. Beans are probably the cheapest, healthiest thing you can eat. If you like beans, I don't care what type of bean. It doesn't make a difference what type of bean. You can make a big pot of, I love 16 bean soup. 16 bean soup, cut up a few pieces of chicken. It's a perfect meal. Put it over some brown rice, perfect meal, cheap meal. I think sometimes the conversation is about it's expensive to eat healthy. I think people have a misconception. Vegetables are cheap. You know, being a vegan is cheap if you kind of make your own food. So, you know, you have vegetables. Vegetables are always Produce Junction. You can buy 3 packages of kale for $2. For $2. So if I have a big bag of kale and I cook a big bag of kale and maybe I have some beans, yes, meat, you can have meat. You buy some chicken, maybe buy a whole chicken and you cut it up or you stew it or whatever. Still, stewed chicken with some vegetables, some rice and beans. That's a wonderful, wonderful meal. It's a wonderful meal and it's not that expensive. Yes, you have to be more conscious now because everything is astronomical. It's astronomical. And I understand people have to make choices, but beans are cheap and good rice is cheap. A big bag of brown rice that you make is cheap. And so you have your protein, you have a carbohydrate. You know, you buy a chicken, whole chicken, cut them up, stew them, cook them, do whatever you want to do to it. And then you can have some meatless meals. You can have some meatless meals. So that's one.
I think you have to be creative.
Yes.
So I think there are a couple of ways, like shopping strategies. There are apps that has coupons, you know, being on top of supermarkets. Sometimes, you know, I grew up in an area where supermarkets weren't close. And so we either walked the distance or public trans. Fortunately, we had cousins and family members would come pick each other up. They go shopping together, spend all day together. But then parents they didn't use fast food as an option. So once you take fast food out as an option, the creativity will start to upload. So couponing is one way to save. Frozen vegetables is another way to save if you have to, you know, you can't get fresh vegetables or you can't get to a place that has fresh vegetables. I just think people have to really decide that they want to eat healthier. I think meatless is also a way to, if you think about meat with every meal, you are talking about really, you know, you feed a family, you're talking about a lot, but just considering having a couple meals a week where you don't have meat is an option. Choosing your health really over cheap meals. And I know that can be really hard to do, but it can be done. It can be done.
Tina says, I used to think that way until talking about prior spending and how meal prep happened for her. Said, I used to think that way until I started meal prep, or if I don't have time, make sure I bring fruit or dry fruit, example, raisins with me. So just talking again about a different strategy, changing things, seeing what it looks like now and then what you want it to look like and making the adjustments to make that happen. TJ, you've been wanting to say something for a while. What's up, brother?
Well, I mean, on this note too, I think again, to Vicky's question about the it's harder to find foods. I think it comes down to making a decision, and like taking those certain things off the plate, like fast food. If you take that out, and like Vicky said, I think your creativity will kick in, and then and the time constraints. I think I always go through, my 13 P's. Piss poor preparation promotes piss poor performance. And piss poor performance promotes perpetual pain. So if you prepare, ahead of time, if you prepare each day to eat healthy, if you have a preparation mindset, that's, and Tina talked about meal prep. If you get rid of the excuse that you don't have the money for, if you get rid of the excuse that you don't have the time for it, we are resilient people. We make things happen. We do what we want to do, and I think we have to get rid of the excuse. The excuse says, and I think it will come to light for you. You will figure it out. Like Gail said. Beans, rice, and you'll start to get more and more creative. Fruits and vegetables are easy. To make a meal out of. So I just think, on that note, I wanted to make sure that, we speak to the community about, we have to get rid of our excuses as if we can't do, because we really can. That's the first thing. But I also wanted to speak to, wanted to put out there in the space, because of the difficulty of the being honest and all these things. And I heard Tanya talk about, the Dr. Jones, I think she mentioned, we need accountability partners, or we need accountability to do some of these things. So I think we if we kind of try to break down these silos that we're in and hold each other accountable more, families holding each other accountable, and or organizations holding, I think, speak to the importance of accountability, somebody pushing you, somebody encouraging you. Speak to that, on how we can get over this barrier of making excuses, this barriers of getting to the 30-day mark, not the 66-day mark, and we fall off. Those types of things. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to go back to Aaron's question about how to help others, right? And so if I was to come from a mental health standpoint, we only help those who want to be helped, like who are seeking help in a certain area. So someone could upboard on my platform and say, that they could have a pin sticking out of their eye, and they want to talk about a splinter in the middle of their hand. It's my job to talk about the splinter in the middle of their hand. I may happen to say, well, while we were in the session, I noticed there's a pencil coming out of your eye. Are you experiencing any discomfort? I could say that, and they could say, no, I'm fine, it's good, and then go about their way. So when it comes to the way we eat and take care of our bodies, I kind of feel it's the same way. So we could, I think, injure people if we present to them information they're not seeking, or that they don't want from us. And so I think the best thing is to be good role models. I like how Tanya gave 2 examples, that she had a relative who was very interested in what she had to say, probably because she can see visual success. So Tanya has put herself in a position to confront herself about some of her habits is being noticed by someone who's interested in making those changes. But she said there are friends that she has who are not inclined to new information right now. So she's introducing recipes, and they've been receptive to eating her food, and her food is delicious. And so I think you have to meet people where they are, and that as long as we experience success, people will be drawn to us around that particular success, those people who are ready.
Right.
And then they will ask you the question based on their level of readiness. They're going to be curious and continue to eat fried chicken. They're going to be curious, or someone's going to ask, and Tanya's going to give advice: eat less carbs, do this, and that person's going to follow, right? Because that's their level, what we call motivation for change. That's the level that they're on. And so I think the biggest impact we can make is being an example. And then when people ask us or are drawn because of our success, be prepared to teach or give information in a way that people can take it in.
That's
And I
good.
think that's the greatest thing. I
You know,
like what Terrence said. Go ahead. I like
But
what
I-
Terrence said about partnerships, because what I have found in our community, there's a lot of negative energy coming at you when you do make the right decisions regarding, how you eat and take care of your body, that you will find yourself in certain family systems that will put negative pressure on you because you've made those choices. So people will have certain reactions
Mhm.
or negative reactions to your success and not affirm, not reinforce. And so individuals have to be ready for that. They have to be ready that they're breaking the cycle. They're going to get some pushback, and just be prepared. And an accountability partner would be really helpful in that situation.
Well, let me ask you a question, Vicki, because I totally agree, because I had two young ladies who were working out together. And what I've seen from history is that unless you're family members, pairing up with someone doesn't work when it comes to exercise, because everybody wants something different out of what they're doing. So it's hard to get two people that aren't related and the same different families to be on the same path for a long period of time who are trying to get to the same place. And I had one young lady who was extremely successful in changing her behavior, extremely successful. She ate right, she lost probably 60 pounds, but when she got to her work environment, like you said, nobody was supportive of that for her. They kept trying to encourage her to, oh, you look great right now, you're fine. So how does which she wasn't able to manage. She was not. It was just too overwhelming for her to be ostracized from her friends because they felt as though what she was doing really, it wasn't what they wanted to do. And so they made her feel bad about what she was doing. They made her feel as though when she was trying to prep her food and eat proper food, that they criticized her on a daily basis. So how do people get over that? How do people battle that discouragement from outside people?
I don't think it's an easy answer, actually. I think it's similar to what you would say to someone who is an alcoholic. What happens is you tend to surround yourself with people who are indulging in the same behaviors. And so if I call it a hostile or aggressive environment, right? These may be people you're related to, but if your whole environment is these decisions we're talking about are life or death situations.
Mm-hmm.
People are dying because of the food we eat. So it is as serious as alcoholism, right? And we don't say it that way, right? Because then when we look around at who's eating what, we don't say like, this is like really deadly what we're doing here. When people come to me and they're dealing with this particular issue, they have to shift their supports. They have to shift their environment. And then they will have, like, if they just stick to their goal of getting healthier, they will lose friends. They will have distance between themselves and family members. And because this young lady you're talking about, they will have to choose sometimes their life's goal of getting healthy and who they spend time with. It's sometimes that serious. If you imagine hanging out with your friends and where they go for a restaurant and you have to have your bag of food because you cannot eat most of what, and if you're going to spend an entire day, you're an oddball, right? And if your group is not supportive of the choices that you make for yourself, and not only are they not supportive, but they're hostile towards it. Some people are put in a position of having to change who they spend time with in order to save their own lives.
When I was in my addiction, I was with people who lived in addiction. It was that simple. Great people, wonderful people. But the issue was when we had money, we got high. And as my addiction escalated, I hung around with people whose addiction was also on that level. When I made a decision to change my life, the first thing I had to look at was the people in my life. And so my decision, and I've always said this, and I learned this in that time, that once I make a decision, now you have to make a decision about my decision. I don't have to make that decision anymore. Once I make that decision that this is my change, once I make that decision that I'm going in this direction, I don't have to make that decision for you. You're welcome in my life, but what you bring to my life, if it's not the direction I'm going, it's not welcome. So that in and of itself begins. And I heard what Vicki was saying, Gail. So much of it has to do with, and I go back to that, Tanya has planted the trophy in my head. What is the trophy? The approval of my friends or the life change that I want? And so I have to decide which is more valuable. And I did. And I began to find other people in my life. And that happened because once the decision was made, and once the decision was made, I missed some of my friendships. I had lifelong friendships. And I do mean from North Philly, the Army, different people. The reality of it, thank you, Tina. The reality of it was that once I made the decision for me, it really was not that important what other people thought, simply because my trophy was to live. And I go back to what Tanya said, that resonates with me, especially having played basketball. That was the trophy, to live. And so when I made that decision, I decided to do other things. Hey, Aaron, you going out with us Friday? No, I'm not. I literally, and I want to share this because of the direction Vicki took us in with that answer to your question, Gail. I literally, when I stopped smoking crack, about the third week, I literally came home from work and put a chair, like in the old Western movies, a chair under the door, under the lock of my door, so I wouldn't go out. And I came home from work and I went to sleep because my craving was so bad. And when I got up, I removed the chair and I went to a Bible study. Now, this isn't about Bible study, it's about change. And I simply did what I had to do that day, because if not, I would have picked up the phone and said, yo, Holmes, come on over. And so going back to the example that you gave of the young lady and the lack of support, part of it is that I recognize I'm not going to get support there, but there is support. There's support and commonality. And I had nothing in common with those people anymore if I'm that young lady, except we worked together. That was our commonality. But because I decided something else, now it's up to me to find out. There are people who work out. I don't hang out with people that work out. I hang out with people that talk about working out. So but the people who work out, when I hang out with them, I work out.
Right.
And so if that change is evident and that change is desired, right, then what happens is I don't dislike you anymore, coworker, but we stop having things in common. It's no different than being at work and these are the gossipers over here and these are the people that's actually producing over here. Who I hang with is my choice. It depends on what I want out of it, right? If I need to be with the in crowd because that's where I grab my self-esteem, is that's where I find my identity, that's where I'm going. But if I want to be with the people who come to work, knock it out and go home about their business, this is the side that I'm on. And so I encourage people that when change happens, try to find that group that's moving in the direction that you're going in. And sometimes it's tough. You got to go by yourself, but ultimately you will find that group of people, like this group assembled on this screen. We'll find that group of people who are marching in the same direction as us.
Let me take it to the next level, which is I've had married women come and decide they want to lose weight. However, their spouse does not feel the same way. Their spouse has decided he's not going to change what he eats. He's not going to change what comes in the house. He's not going to change the snacking. Plus, he likes her the way she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can't leave your spouse, really. So those are some of the struggles that I have seen women have with their spouse.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to change. He doesn't want to change. He doesn't want me to be different. He doesn't want me to do this. I think it's different with friends. I mean,
Yeah.
Than with someone you're living with, and this spouse does not support your journey and really is counterproductive to what you're trying to do, because they sabotage the household because they're not with you.
So I think well, I would assess that situation for a non-supportive spouse and or a sabotaging spouse. So it can be two. So non-supporting would look like, well, I can eat that, so I don't know why I got to deprive myself. I'm bringing the chips in there. I ain't gaining no weight. It's not my problem. Just don't eat the chips. You know, you got that, and then you got the spouse that will bring the things in that you're trying to resist. Right? They don't eat it, but yeah, I know you like this. Your favorite ice cream, right? You have that sabotaging. It's my job to build in the resilience for that person, to anticipate that and plan for it. So non-supportive, the person's going to have, if they're part of my sessions and I can ask them to, out of love, show support, make other plans to enjoy the treats because they don't hurt you. They do hurt your spouse who's trying to live, and you would never do anything to hurt your spouse, right? So if I can't sell that, then I build in resilience. So there's going to be ice cream on Friday. What are we going to do about that? What's your plan? How do you handle that? And most of the time, because there's a plan in place, that person can have success. They may not. I find that people who don't have successes, they don't recognize what that person is doing. They just know how they feel. Mm-hmm. And then they struggle with their own feelings. But if they can recognize that this person has refused to show support for what you're doing, and they're going to have certain behaviors, and you plan for that, then the person who's going to actually sabotage you, you're going to plan for that. So once the plan is in place, activate the plan, and those people can experience success. And that, I find it to be very true. I find it to be true in families too, who feel, the only word I could use is convicted. I can't think of any other word. Yeah, but if you change your behavior for to save your life, and the other people in the family system need to do the same, they feel that they need to, but the light that you're shining makes them really uncomfortable, and they have all of these behaviors that result in that individual feeling discouraged or sabotaged, or the spotlight is on them, so they get feedback like, well, why are you eating that after you was on a diet? Or why are you doing that? So it puts a lot of pressure, and it's just strategy. What behaviors are you seeing? How do we plan for that? This is going to be your response to behavior A, behavior B, behavior C. But they have to really be aware of themselves, how they're reacting to it, be aware of what's working against them in the environment. And we just continue to talk about it. And it's just building resilience and that why that Tanya talked about. Why are you doing this? Are you doing it for their approval? Are you, why did you make this choice? Does it matter? Even when the pressure, someone's trying to sabotage you, does that adjust your why in any way? So they have to, unfortunately, work harder, but their reward is greater once they overcome.
And I hear the stewardess who tells over and over and over on every flight that I've got to put my oxygen mask on first. Yeah. I hear the stewardess, and I have to now make that decision. It's not always the easiest decision, but at some point the individual has to decide that I want to live, that I want to live.
That life or death scenario that Vicky talked about, we don't put it in that context, but in reality, that's it. And I'm a firm believer, if you're being your best self, you will attract what you need. People, you'll start to shred what you don't, but you're natural. It's just a way it's designed. If you're being your best self, even though it's going to be tough and you're going to need those resilience plans that Vicky talked, you're going to need those things to continue on the journey. But if you continue on the journey, even that spouse, you will start to make a change in that spouse if you can continue on that journey. Not saying it's going to be tough. You would need that support, that clinician support to put together that resistance plan. But I believe if you're being your best self, in that space, you will attract what you need, and that also those negative people will either shred away or they'll start making changes for themselves.
And one of the things, Terrence and Vicky and Gail, and this is just the gray hairs talking more than any professional acumen. This is the gray hairs talking, that I have found out that when you make a decision about you, people run out of excuses to make a decision about themselves. So when I make a decision that I'm going to live, which means I'm going to change certain things, all of the reasons that you had not to dissipate, because we did this together. We ate like this together. This was our habit. This was our lifestyle. But when I step back and say, you know what, I got to do something different. I want to live. Well, your excuses have run out because you're actually looking at the person or the people that did this with you, and they've made the change. And the change itself speaks. It says you can make the change too. Now I have to decide whether that's what I want to do. And as you have said, now, if I don't want to give that up, if I don't want to give you up in that change, because I don't want to change, I'm going to sabotage, or I'm going to be discouraging, or I'm going to be very critical. And it's not even about you. It's about, I see the mirror now and I see myself, and I've run out of reasons not to.
Yeah,
right?
that mirror is something.
That mirror is something. I've run out of reasons not to. For the person who's making the change, and Vicky, you're right about that. We have to put a plan in place because it's going to come. So when it does come, what do? When it does come, we've got to make a decision that we're going to keep pushing forward. And it might cause problems, Gail, within the marriage. If we're talking from a marital standpoint, it may cause problems in any relationship, but it comes back to that issue of I want to live. I want to live. And if I want to give you the best of me, but first I have to have the best of me. And once I decide that, again, I come back to this very wise quote that was given to me. Once I make a decision, I don't have to make that decision anymore. Now you have a decision to make.
I think that goes in with the going back to Vicky's question about eating healthy, and because a lot of times if one person in the family wants to live a certain lifestyle and another doesn't, well, that puts a strain on your budget, because now you have two different schools of thought, and now you have to have two different shoppings. Whereas if everybody's on the same plan, everybody's in the same mind space, then we can have one shopping. But when one partner wants to buy the chips, the cookies, the sodas, and the other one is going, we need water, we need vegetables. You know, one side is going to be stronger. And when it comes down to dollars and cents, what do? So I think it is a struggle for budget wise when everybody's not on the same page. When one person wants to go this way, another person wants to go that way, then how do you kind of combine that and make it the budget work? And you really have to talk about that. And so you have to decide, how do you decide which direction? You know, if we have $5 and I want to buy a case of sodas and you want to buy, you know, a bunch of kale.
I like kale.
I love kale.
So we have these, these questions come up, and the more we evolve, change creates, right? It creates the questions, it creates the situations, it comes back to the resilience. And so I don't think we can solve all of them, but we do know after listening today and what we heard from Tanya, people can make and do make changes, and there are processes. And Vicky talked about the habits, creating new habits that work for us, and being able to understand that. We talked about being around like-minded people and like-minded supports, and finding those supports. Terrence talked about the fact that in change, different things will gravitate to our positive energy and our positive change. And Gail, you're absolutely right. There's a responsibility that just comes with us taking self-evaluation and making a decision that we want something different. That trophy that just sticks in my mind, that phrase that Tanya used, what is my trophy? What is my why? And once I get the trophy, I can tell you that from a basketball playing standpoint. Once I get the trophy, you ain't getting it back. You know, if you give it to me by mistake, you're not getting my trophy back.
But the other thing, one thing I can say is that there are like-minded people at the gym. I just need to put that out there. Everybody at the gym, you come into the gym, everybody in the gym wants you to do well because they're in the gym. There's like-minded people in the gym. So if you ever want to think about exercising and you want to find people that will support you in that, come to the gym. I had to say that, Aaron, for you.
That's okay. I have a gym membership. I'm good. I'm good, and I've got stuff at home, so I'm good. I ain't going to the gym today, though. I'm going to find me a desk.
The gym, you know, the idea of the gym can be a barrier for some people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what you want to is break it down in other ways.
Why is that?
Yeah.
It just, you know, it is just psychologically for some people, it's more expensive. It's, you know, access. But if you talk about being active, what that looks like, let's say, you know, talk about steps, talk about not using the elevator, talking about parking far from the supermarket, walking places where you wouldn't normally walk, things that people don't have to go out of their way for, but they can get active. That's in some cases is less of a barrier. Also, I've had people say to me, and I don't agree, but their perception is that people look a certain way at the gym and it doesn't look like how they look.
Yeah.
So people feel like, well, you know, I've heard people say, oh, they got the skimpy outfits on and they got this, because in their mind, this is how people look in the gym. And that's not reinforcing for them, you know, the mirrors. And so some people are coming to the game not feeling good about themselves and not feeling good about their body.
Yeah.
And so the gym highlights that for them in some ways. And so this is why it's really important to individualize what it is. What can they do? What do they have access to? Maybe they can work up to the gym. Maybe they can afford the gym, but maybe they need a certain body to go. So how many pounds do you need to lose before you feel comfortable? And well, I need to take off 50 pounds. Okay, so let's find other ways to take it off. And then once you have 50, then we can talk about maybe the gym is a more efficient way for you to work out. But at the gym, I think it's changing a lot because we have, like in our area, the Philadelphia area, more gyms available, people all shapes and sizes. But if someone has a stereotype in their mind about the gym, then and I can't move it. Like I can say, take a visit and go see what it's like, right? I can say something like that. But if that stereotype is steadfast, then I'm going to spend less time there and more time talking about just the date. So, a lot of people work in offices. Can you take the stairs upstairs in the morning? Can you wear sneakers and walk? How many flights can you walk? You know, a lot of people can get the Fitbit or some version of it that's inexpensive. Can you get your 10,000 steps in? That's just a start. Like, how can you do it? You figure it out. Some people are willing to take their lunch and go walk outside and won't go anywhere near a gym. Okay.
Gail and I had this conversation last week, which is why she jumped in with this. And, you know, we went back and forth. There are people who the gym works for, and there are people, as Vicki said, that have the gym creates barriers, but they're just as successful because they have found another way to accomplish their goals. I think that once we put people in a capsule of this is the only way, that I just think that is wrong, because there is no, regardless of what that wellness path is, there is not a single way. And so what works for some doesn't work for all, but what works does work. So I see the enthusiasm about the gym. I myself have a gym membership, but there are days when I just want to use my little weights upstairs or walk in this wonderful yard I have on the path outside. There are days when it's just all about what I'm eating and what I'm consuming, and not being inside in the gym, especially when COVID came. I lost more weight during COVID not being in the gym than I have with access to the gym.
Do you know how much weight people gained during COVID?
I don't know. I can't speak for
God,
everybody.
people gained the COVID 20 or the COVID 30
Some did, and
they were totally inactive.
and
People
some
just
like
inactive.
Aaron Wells lost weight. Some like Aaron Wells earned and saved more money. There's no one size fits all. What works for everybody doesn't work for.
Yeah, I too lost weight around that time, but I also got a why. So the first
Right,
time
exactly.
of COVID, I had a diagnosis that created a why for me.
Mhm.
That was like, okay, no, that I need to turn this around. So gym is great, and the fact that gyms are accessible and that they're more and more reasonable is a
Yeah.
fantastic thing.
The
Yeah.
gyms are
But
like
just like-
neighborhoods. Yeah.
Pardon
Yeah.
me?
Gyms are like neighborhoods. Some, they have a, a certain, citizenship that everybody's just not privy to those neighborhoods, and that's a mindset that a lot of people have.
Well,
for
I
gyms.
did do a thing. Vicky, I don't know if Vicky Carrillo, I don't know. I sent her a sheet, and what the sheet was a number of exercises, a variety of exercises, and how many calories you can burn in the same amount of time doing different exercises. I don't know if Vicky can show that. If not, then I can share my screen and show that. Just in the thoughts of now I don't know how to share my screen.
The other thing that's available now are the apps. There's some
Yeah.
great apps out
Yeah.
there that have you do
Mhm.
exercises for weight loss and strength training and
Let me see if Vicky can
all
show
kinds of
that.
stuff. There's so many more options than the gym.
One of the great apps on
Willing to
this
commit.
phone that my sister Tanya got me is my heartbeat and my heart rate and my steps, and it helped me a lot. Again, during the first 2 years of COVID, I didn't go to the gym. I walked the trail out here, but I made sure this phone was with me, and it helped me with my miles. It helped me with so it became, Vicky, just piggybacking on what you said, it became a great resource and tool for me. 'Cause I was never conscious of how many steps or how many miles. I just walked until I figured I walked enough laps. And it really did help as a tool to be able to help me assess what was going on as far as my time with my exercising.
But I do want to, I will provide this information because I do want to, because it has everything from aerobics, rowing, running, jogging, walking, weightlifting, swimming. It just gives you options of things to do. We're not saying that one thing, some people love aerobics, some people love classes, some people like cycling.
Is this something you can post on our Facebook page,
I
Gail?
can. It's a wonderful little tool, and it just shows you how many calories you burn based on your body weight in 30 minutes.
Let's post that on the Facebook page. That would be absolutely great, a great resource. And if you can email it, that would be good too, because I want to see that.
I just Google stuff, and but it just gives you an idea, and you can look at the difference in how many calories you're going to burn, because it's really, and nobody's saying that you have to go to the gym, but if you're looking at time and efficiency of burning calories, there are certain things that burn more calories in a shorter amount of time. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
So you can't change that fact. If you have limitless time, you have limitless time. Some people have a time limit. I only have this amount of time, and in this amount of time, I need to accomplish this. I can't do it doing this, but I can do it doing this. So people need to see that. I'm not advocating running because most people are not going to run. If you're not a runner, you're not a runner, and I don't say you need to run. But if you look at the calories that are being burned with different activities, then you can make a decision saying, if I have a lot of time, I can walk miles and just in the nature and have a great time. But if I need to burn those calories in a shorter period of time, maybe I need to look at adding something else onto my exercise routine to burn more calories. Nobody's saying you have to go to the gym every day. Nobody's saying you have to play tennis every day. But if you look and say, I do like the pool, maybe I can run in the pool, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's great for your joints. Just in the pool, just walking or jogging in the pool takes all the stress off your joints. Just activities that are different. You do the same thing every day. The body is smart. It says, if you do the same thing, I get used to it and I burn less calories. And you just do. The body burns less calories if you continue to do the same thing every day. It just gets used to it and it adapts. And the body's really adaptable. So that's why you have to sort of shock the body, change things so that your body doesn't adapt and you can continue to make a physical change. You can't make it, if you walk every day, each time you walk, the body says, okay, got that. Okay, got that. So then you start burning less and less calories. So you have to do something different sometimes to make the body kind of go, oh, this is different. Let me change. Otherwise, it won't. I mean, I've seen people come into the gym, walk on the treadmill forever, and they're the exact same size because they haven't changed anything. So maybe one day you walk, maybe one day you're at home and you do some wall push-ups, Aaron, or you do something different. The body will adapt to the change, but you have to do something different to affect change. You just can't do the same thing every day and expect the same change. Because what happens is, and this is why people stop, because they start doing things and then they see the scale stops changing. They don't know what to do. So they keep doing the same thing, and then they get discouraged. Well, if you kind of add in different things that you like, you know, if you like going to the park with your kids and you like swinging and you like doing anything that just changes up your routine, it helps your body to not get comfortable and just stagnate on that one thing. That's my commercial.
We appreciate that. So with that, we're going to start putting the plane in the hangar. Let's get a summation. I thought it was great conversation today. I appreciate Tanya coming on. That was big. That was big for T. Willie to come on, and I appreciate my sister coming on, sharing her story. I'm so proud of her. I want to thank April and Vicky and Tina for coming on with comments. Vicky, if you could give us a wind up just from today's conversation, just some last words, and then Gail, and then Terrence, and then we'll put the plane in the hangar.
Okay, so I think what's most important is that we do what we can to educate people who are interested in the information that we have to give them. I think it's also very important to remember that there is this idea of self-regulation, which is, you know, just a will to live up to what we know. But then there is the psychology of habit that most people are not aware of. They do not understand how they've been wired to sabotage themselves or sabotage their goals to be in good health. And when we are working with someone is in our life and in our space, and we realize that they're, you know, captive to the psychology of habit, let's help them understand that they need to be very strategic about undermining things that this is the way their brain works without even thinking, to do things that's against what they've set as their goal, and to help them recognize that they need to set real strategies to work against that, to rewire the brain. Talk about the 66 days. We're talking about, one point we heard it to abstain from something 41 days and then to incorporate the new habit an additional 41 days. Like, make it concrete so that people know how long it takes to do this new behavior before they can actually see results. And so just share information. The more we share that, people may begin to start thinking like very strategically about, this is a habit I want to break. This is a habit I want to incorporate into my life. And let's be very patient and consistent with people. And the more we know about the psychology of habit, because we will get on people, well, just do it. You know, live up to, there's this habit thing that started at 8, 9, 10 that people have a stronghold to. And so let's just help people be strategic about that. And I think that's really important that we speak to that when we speak into people's lives about making good choices.
Thank you so much. Terrence, and then we're going to let the director shut us down. Terrence, your last thoughts for today.
Well, based on the clinician's information, I'm just going to say to everybody that you owe you. It starts with the man or the woman you look at in the mirror every day. Hold them accountable. Be proactive and not reactive to what's going on in your life, and make the necessary changes when it's that time is right for you. Like Vicky said, if you don't want to make the changes, you won't. But if you do, seek some professional help, seek that accountability partner, share ideas like Tanya spoke about. But at the end of the day, you owe you.
Thank you. Madam Director, last words from you for today.
I guess my last words are to piggyback on Terrence. You deserve the best. You know, everybody deserves the best out of life. You deserve good health, good energy. And when we're talking about habits, you create the habits in your family. So you can change the habits for your children. So you can start them on a path so that that habit is, like you said, at 8, you can start them on that path, but you have to be on the path yourselves. So we can teach our children to be healthier and live a better lifestyle. And so they can avoid some of the conditions that we have in the community. And I think that should be our goal, to really stop that generational sickness as we try to stop generational poverty. We want to stop generational health issues. We don't want to keep having it trickle down from generation to generation. But it starts with, like you said, making a decision, figuring out why, but have a why. It doesn't make a difference what it is. It's irrelevant what it is. Just come to a decision that you want to do better day by day, and just do better. And good things will happen. They will just naturally happen. See you in the gym.
See you in the gym. Everybody, this is North Philly Project.
Do you own that gym? That's all I want to know. Invested in that gym.
I do that for Aaron.
These are our conversations that focus on viable solutions to significant health and wellness disparities in North Philly. I want to thank our panel. I'm just hanging out with Gail, really. I want to thank Gail. I want to thank Vicki. I want to thank Terrence. I want to thank Tanya, Tina, April, and our other Vicki who came on. If you get this, you see this, please share on your social media platform. It's on the North Philly Facebook page, the North Philly Project YouTube channel, and please share to get the conversation out to as many people. Thank you so much. We'll see you in July. I will have been to the gym. You know what? I pass the gym every day. So all I'm going to say is today I will be going by the gym. I love you very much. Take care, y'all. Have a great rest of the week and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.